Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and there's a ton to get to, so I want to bring in John Solomon immediately from justthenews.com because it's like drinking out of a fire hose right now, John. Thanks for
It
joining us.
is. Yeah,
Well,
good to
and
be with you.
you're starting all of this off because you're actually part of the news. I know you don't like to be, but you have actually opened up a lawsuit against the archives and the Justice Department over the release of some documents. What's that all about?
Yeah, this is an important thing. It's a public interest lawsuit, and our goal is to finally get for the American public the documents that President Trump, before he left office on January 20th, 2021, declassified, showing the wrongdoing and misconduct and failures of the FBI investigation of Russia collusion. We now know that to be discredited and debunked. But we haven't figured out exactly how the FBI got so far off and wayward in its pursuit of those claims. And the president declassified hundreds of pages of documents in a binder, and he ordered them to be released as he was leaving office. And it didn't happen. Here's what happened literally at the 11th hour before he departed the White House at noon on January 20th, 2021. The Justice Department scooped up these documents, saying, oh, they needed to make one more set of redactions for the Privacy Act, and then they kept them from the American public for the last 2 years. A very interesting thing about the excuse, the White House isn't covered by the Privacy Act, so there would have been no violation for the White House to release the documents in the form they were unredacted by President Trump. So for a year and a half, we couldn't find where these documents were. I eventually asked President Trump for permission to go into the archives and access his private a collection to see if the documents were sitting there. I did it as a journalist. I was only looking for one set of records. And the archives came back and said, oh, we don't have them. I said, where are they? The Justice Department's had them for the last 18 months. We asked multiple times over the last 8 months, please get the archives, please go get the documents, bring them back to the archives. The law says they belong at the archives. The archives agreed with me, but they never got the documents back from the Justice Department. So with the help of the America First Legal a public interest law firm, we sued the Justice Department and the archives. And here's the irony of this. This lawsuit accuses the Justice Department of violating the very law, the Presidential Records Act, that says it is investigating both Presidents Trump and Biden for because they had classified documents in their possession, not at the archives. The irony that the Justice Department may have violated the same law isn't lost in this lawsuit. Our goal, though, is not to shame people. It's just to get these documents to the public for their benefit.
Yeah, the public deserves the right to know about this. We have the right to know. And let's be clear here. These are presidential records. These records don't belong to the FBI. They don't belong to the Justice Department. And is there any Trump has declassified them. There's no doubt about that. Can a new president come in and reclassify them and say, oh, we don't care what Trump did. We're going to put them back under lock and key?
We don't know the answer to that, right? It's not very seldom been done in the past. So we don't know. We don't have any reason to believe that because the archives continued in its communications with me to refer to these documents as recently as a week or two ago as a declassified binder. So they appear to still be declassified. I think the Justice Department, which had a lot to lose with the release of these documents, and the FBI would have probably endured some more scrutiny, some more exposure of failures and mistakes and information they may have kept from the American public. And they scooped them up for no real reason at all. And the ultimate loser isn't me, isn't you. It's the American public. These were important enough that a president thought they should be declassified. He did so. I have a copy of the declassification order, and still we, the American people, don't have those documents about 24 months later.
And just to be clear, these are not being kept out for national security purposes, for sources and methods, all those other excuses they used all through the Trump presidency. This is the Privacy Act. Whose privacy exactly are they trying to shield?
We don't know. It's a mystery to us. And ironically, the White House wasn't subject to the law. So there's even a communication from Mark Meadows to the Justice Department saying we're not even subject to the law, according to the lawyers. And still the Justice Department scooped these documents up and have kept them from the American people. There isn't a security interest they're protecting here. I suspect it's a reputational interest that they're trying to protect their own reputations.
That's exactly it. It's one of the most shameful episodes in Justice Department and FBI history, this Russian collusion hoax and the investigation of the president and private innocent citizens like Carter Page. And they don't want you knowing about it. But I'm glad you're there, John, trying to pull on those threads. Keep us informed on that lawsuit, please. Meanwhile, the Judicial Committee under Congressman Jim Jordan has been very, very active, including now going on the offensive with regard to this district attorney in Manhattan. They want information as to the decision-making process going into potentially charging former President Trump. What jurisdiction do they have there, and what exactly can they do? I know that there's a bit of a separation here. There should be, at least, from the federal authority that Congress has and a local district attorney, even when that district attorney is doing something pretty bad.
Yeah, well, listen, there are several lines of authority, and I spoke with Jim Jordan yesterday. He was on my TV show. We had a great conversation about this. He really got down into the nitty gritty. Congress sends a lot of money to New York, some of it that goes to its judicial system there. The prosecutors and police get money there. If those departments that receive federal funding are weaponizing cases specifically for political purposes, it may affect their federal funding. That is the first avenue that Jim Jordan said is important. There's a second avenue, which is there is clear evidence that the origins of the allegation that Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, is now investigating, came from the Robert Mueller investigation. This whole hush money thing and the possibility that it was a campaign finance violation originated in the Mueller investigation. And what Jim Jordan said is, listen, I have reason to believe, and I'm going to find out if it's true, that federal agencies have been feeding information, assisting the Manhattan District Attorney, using federal tax dollars to help this Manhattan District Attorney bring a local political case. And I want to know all the context. I want to know if the Biden White House, if members of Congress, members of the Mueller staff, current or past, members of the Justice Department, people in the FBI, have been assisting Bragg's pursuit of Donald Trump, because there's no federal interest in it. The federal statute of limitations expired a long time ago. Multiple federal prosecutors chose not to bring this case. If they're involved in it, they're wasting taxpayers' money and exceeding their legal authority. That's what his interest is.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, high time that the American people start to focus on things like this. I mean, I believe I've learned more about the Justice Department and how they operate in the FBI and the justice system over the last 7 or 8 years than I've ever known. We used to always chuckle about the fact that a prosecutor could get a grand jury to prosecute a ham sandwich. It was sort of a punchline. But when you really think about it, that's a terrifying thing. They shouldn't be able to get a grand jury to prosecute a ham sandwich.
Yeah, unless that ham sandwich has done something bad, they should leave ham sandwiches alone. That's what I always say. I like ham sandwiches, so I never understood that anecdote. But you're right. Listen, and the more we dig into all of these episodes of the last 6 or 7 years, the more we see an imbalanced two-tier system of justice. And we talk about it, and it's almost become cliche, except that it's not a cliche. It is at the essence of America. If justice is not blind, if justice looks for the face or the political origins before deciding whether to prosecute someone, the entire system we built and lived by for 246 plus years is completely gone.
John Solomon, real fast, just a minute left, but there's now this letter that's been released from Michael Cohen's attorney from 2018. I guess it was in response to the Mueller investigation, saying, hey, this money for Stormy Daniels, this was me. This was my idea. It came from my office. It came from my funding. That should be exculpatory here. Does this make a difference, or is the Manhattan DA or the grand jury's position basically that Cohen's lying here?
This is a real problem, right? Because either Cohen was lying then or now, and that never bodes well with the jury when you bring a liar before them. And this validates stuff that Robert Costello, the 320 pages he gave the grand jury last week, also showed. Michael Cohen's story keeps changing. He's never been consistent. Today we have a story identifying 10 inconsistencies in past and current statements. He's a real problem for a witness.
All this attention might actually stop this potential indictment. I know a lot of people think it's already sort of a boulder rolling down the hill, but either way, we'll be reporting on it. I know you will, John Solomon. Thanks for joining us at news.com. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight on a very busy day. Keep it here. You're watching Salem News Channel.